Okay, well, I'm Lida, and I've been working with Perpetual Adoration for 37 years here, and I thought maybe people would like to know how it all came to be. Back in 1986, we received a video about Perpetual Adoration, and we were pretty impressed by that, and we decided that would be really good. And then my husband and I, Larry, went to Congress, in a Legion of Mary Congress down in Wichita, and while we were there, they talked a lot about Perpetual Adoration. They said Jesus wants it, and a young mother talked to us about what it had done in her parish, her inner city parish. It had regenerated her parish, and on our way home, we decided that would be really nice at our parish, but probably wasn't going to happen. And the more we thought about it, the more we prayed about it, we thought, well, maybe there's a chance. And so we asked the two Legion of Mary groups and certain different people like Carolyn Shea, my next door neighbor, and some of the other devoted daily communicants to pray and fast that we get it, because the people that were in charge of adoration for the United States had said, you'll not get this if you do not pray and fast, because the devil certainly does not want this, and he'll be working hard against it. So I went to them and I told them, I said, if you will do pray and fast, I will ask Monsignor Curtin on the feast of the Immaculate Conception and see what he says, that maybe we can get it. And so on the feast of the Immaculate Conception, I went to see Monsignor Curtin, and he said, well, I think it's a great idea. Well, I was really surprised, but he wasn't thinking exposition. He was thinking just maybe in the church. But we didn't communicate that very well. And so he asked me to write an article for the News and Views, and I did. And in it, I mentioned exposition. And when I gave it to him to check over, he said, but I wasn't talking about exposition. That takes all kinds of extra permissions. So I thought, well, he said, go ahead and write it, but leave that out. And so I thought, well, that's probably the end of it. I don't think the priest will come and talk at the masses. The missionaries of the Blessed Sacrament go around and talk and start adoration in parishes. So I had kind of given up on the idea. We were out of town for a couple of weeks, and I came back and was at the rectory getting a mass said, and Monsignor saw me and he said, where have you been? We have to figure out where we're going to put our chapel. And I was so surprised. I was really taken aback. And so then we had to figure out where we were going to put it. Well, nobody wanted to give up any space for Jesus, so sad to say. He said, well, then we'll just build our own little chapel at the basement. In the basement, at the bottom of the steps, we'll have its own exit and entrance, and not jeopardize the security of the church. So he said, go ahead and ask the priest to come. And he said, well, this was like maybe February and March of 1987. And he said, go ahead. And the priest said he couldn't come. He couldn't come until Pentecost Sunday, which was in June. So Monsignor said, just go ahead, tell him to come. And so in the meantime, Monsignor arranged for the Carter Glass Company to build this little enclosure in the basement, big enough for 4 prie-dieux or kneelers and 4 chairs, and a little stand for the Blessed Sacrament and 2 for the candles. And we were ready to go when the priest came. He talked at all the masses on Pentecost Sunday, We had cards in the pews with hours sectioned off into quarters of the day, and people would sign up for they would like to have an hour, and only almost 500 people signed up to take part. So that was wonderful, except that we only had 2 weeks to Corpus Christi, and that's when we wanted to start. So that was a very big challenge for Carolyn and for me, because she had said right away that she would be my helper, which was marvelous. I don't think she realized what a big commitment it was at the time, but neither did I. And so we worked day and night. And that really was one night she pulled an all-nighter working on the schedule, trying to adjust. We had people with 3 people or 4 in an hour, and we'd have to move them to places where there were no people. And we had gotten all the hours filled except 2. 1 to 2 a.m. on Sunday and 1 to 2 a.m. on Monday. And I said to Monsignor Curtin, would you like an hour? He said, give me any hour you need. So I said, okay, how about Monday, 1 to 2 a.m.? He said that would be fine. And my husband and I decided we would take the 1 to 2 a.m. on Sunday, which we kept for long after he's died. I kept it up for a while. Anyway, we had coordinators for every hour. For the first 3 weeks, they called everyone to remind them the day before that they had an hour coming up. And from then on, it has just gone beautifully. But it was because Jesus wanted it, because it wasn't anything we did. It was because it was, like they said, perpetual adoration, Jesus wants it. So I'm thinking that it would be really nice if everybody had an hour, but that's probably over optimistic. But you are very welcome to sign up for an hour and wherever you would like to do, and you will be always happy that you did. Well, there have been lots of little miracles that have happened. It seems like mostly to other people, but one man credited the fact that he came to that because he was asked to sub in the middle of the night and couldn't drink, he gave up drinking, and he had been in AA ever since. One of the ladies was at Medjugorje when we started, and it was everybody saw the miracle of the sun differently, and she saw it as a giant monstrance, and we had asked her to pray for adoration, and she said that was the reason, because she was praying for that while she was there, and she was sure that's why she saw the monstrance. And it's just becomes a way of life. You have your hour every week with Jesus or more. Some people have more than 1 hour, and it's just life-changing.
Hi, I am Mary Pat. I am one of the coordinators for Perpetual Adoration, and Adoration has completely changed my life. Without the example and influence of my 3 mothers, my natural mother, my godmother, who I had the privilege of living next door to for all of my childhood, and our Blessed Mother, I wouldn't be where I am today without their influence. I have quite literally had 3 mothers looking after me for all of my life, and the influence of all 3 has been immeasurable. Our Blessed Mother's greatest desire is to lead us to her Son, Jesus. As far back as I can remember, both my earthly mother and my godmother have had strong devotions to our Blessed Mother. My godmother is an active member of the Legion of Mary, and my mother was an auxiliary member. And my mother also had a strong devotion to our Mother of Perpetual Help. She prayed the novena daily. So through their devotion and their hard work at establishing perpetual adoration, they too have led me to the Eucharistic heart of Jesus. Working as a coordinator of adoration, there are times that you find yourself searching for a substitute adorer for a particular hour. And there's sometimes that you find no one to fill that role.
So go ahead and talk about your three mothers.
Yeah. I mean, the influence of my three mothers, my natural mother and my godmother, who I had the benefit of growing up next door to, and my blessed mother, their influence has been immeasurable, truly. Yeah.
So the first time you were asked to cover a holy hour, what were you thinking? What am I going to do in that hour?
Yeah. When I was asked to cover that hour, I truly thought, okay, yeah, I'll do this for you, Mom, because you're desperate to have somebody to fill this hour. But I have no idea really what it's all about. So I showed up, and I mean, I knew, because I'd seen my mother and my godmother in action all these years, and because I was raised Catholic, I knew what the real presence is, but I didn't really know. And when I got there, I just remember thinking, okay, well, I've got an hour, and I picked up reading material off the Pray-Do, and everything I picked up and started to read spoke volumes to me. And I remember the reaction the first time, thinking, oh my gosh. And I closed it and I put it back. Well, I sat there a little longer, and then I picked up another piece of reading material in the Pray-Do, and same thing. It was just really talking to me, and I put it back. And then the conversation ensued. Looking at the Blessed Sacrament, I knew that there's something to this. There's something very real here. I don't recall if I subbed. I don't recall the history, whether I subbed more frequently, but I think it just started me on a journey. My faith started to become very active, and I started searching.
And what did you find over time?
I found a relationship. I found a relationship that I honestly never knew it could exist. I found that heaven isn't a place that is some abstract place where we all hope to go someday. I found that you can have a piece of heaven now, here and now, and that He was present in every area of your life where you would allow Him to be.
What would you say to people who maybe don't have an hour or have an hour and find themselves at dry spells?
I would say, by all means, get yourself an hour. Jesus is the best therapist you can find. And He's free. He's available 24/7 in our chapel. He's your greatest confidant. He's very willing to be your best friend if we just allow Him. There's many, many graces that He wishes to pour out on anyone who opens their heart to Him. It's
How often do people come to you and share the fruits of adoration? their personal prayers of adoration?
I don't know that there's nothing that's jumping out to me right now. Nothing that I can recall, actually, of people sharing. I think a lot of people are very quiet about those graces.
Why do you think that is?
I think people are quiet about it because they feel like they're talking about themselves, but I don't quite look at it that way, because they're His. I mean, we can't take ownership of them. They're just pure gift. They're not something that we deserve. It's just pure gift.
Would you say that sharing the experiences of having adoration would be inspiring to others?
Well, I know from my own personal experience that anytime I've listened to somebody's witness of graces received, it fans the flame. It blows the Holy Spirit is just blowing on those embers, and just it helps us. It helps. In the days where we didn't have our automated system and we had to communicate with adorers just by phone call, and like, for example, during the winter months when we would have to close the chapel for inclement weather, making those phone calls was always enjoyable. There were a lot to make, but having a conversation with a perpetual adoration adorer is just really quite wonderful. I mean, they're good people to talk to, and I've oftentimes said, as a result of those conversations, that if you're ever having a bad day, just pick up the phone and call on the door. It's a blessing.
And what would you say to people who are considering an hour?
Boy, come and see. Open the door. Open the door, and He'll come in.
Do you think people are kind of anxious about going in, or they don't know what to do, or they think like there's some kind of preconceived steps or prayers or things that they have to do to like make it worth it, or that maybe God won't hear them if they don't do the right genuflex, or prayers or rosaries or books, or what do you think kind of keeps out a lot of people out of adoration? How come there isn't an adoration size of mass, right? Like, do you think people are more like either think it's not worth it to them, or they don't think that it exists, or they don't think God will hear them, or maybe they just don't know they need God, or they feel their Sunday obligation and they just say that's enough?
I mean, it's hard.
It's just thoughts.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I can only speak from my own experience.
Sure.
I think the busyness of life gets in the way. I think without a dedicated hour, it's sometimes hard to get there. And I face that. I do have a dedicated hour, but my wish is to get there more often during the week. And the busyness of life just kind of sucks the time right out of you. So I would hope that, again, people will just come and see. Open the door.
Maybe for busy people, an hour is just what they need to have that quiet time and relax time. Especially maybe young married couples, they can determine maybe 1 hour sometimes.
Well, and it's not even necessary to. My thought is not to even to not come with an agenda. Just go be. Just be there.
Is there anything that you want to add or you haven't spoken of?
You might want to look. Leading questions.
Say,
Oh, I do want to add. I just want to say how grateful I am for my godmother even to ask me to have this really very honored place. I mean, I likely will never forget the morning that she approached me after 8:15 Mass, and she says, "Mary Pat, I want to talk to you." And so, sure, what's going on? She says, "I want to ask you a question." She goes, "But I want you to pray about it before you answer me." And I'm like, "Oh gosh, this sounds serious. What's going on?" And she said, "I want to know if you'll be my backup for perpetual adoration." She goes, "But I want you to pray about it before you answer me." And I'm like, I was so taken. And because I had seen, you know, what my mom and my godmother had done for so many years, I do remember thinking, boy, I'd love to have my hand in that, but it was not a position that I would ever in a million years ask for. But here I was, she was standing there before me and asking me to take that position. And I immediately answered, absolutely yes. And she goes, no, I want you to pray about it first. And I said, no, I have.